Howdy, it's Jim Morado, and this is late August 2022, and we're going to Brushy Mountain Prison. Technically, it was called Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary when it was operating. Last name Brushy Mountain Correctional Complex. It was a large maximum security prison in Morgan County, Tennessee. It was established in 1896 and operated until 2009. And now you can pay a few bucks and do a tour. And this is actually right before you get up to the prison. This is kind of the gift shop, kind of a rest stop area. You buy your tickets. They've also got a little cafeteria here. They call it the warden's table. More on that in a moment. But this is nice. We were here, my wife and I came here a few years ago, and I've been itching to get back. And recently my buddy Mark wanted to go, so we went down. This is an easy day trip, from Lexington or certain areas. You can add it to your Great Smoky Mountains trip also. It's a good hour and a half from the national park. But that's a nice drive between the two places, so you should check it out. Yeah, and that's us ordering. There's the menu. Yeah, it's the warden's table. If you go here, eat here. The food is great, like freakishly great. Look at that. That is one heck of a meal. Underneath that big old pile of pulled pork, they have like a little potato cake or something. They have good food. And people, if you go here and take a tour, people will ask if you had lunch here while you were here. Do it. It is, in fact, if I was in the area and not even taking a tour, I would stop there for lunch. The food is really, really good. I can't stress that enough. And it's kind of a cool eating experience. It's not that pricey for what it is. Eat there, trust me. And there's the front of the prison. For some reason on this particular day, they had some helicopters flying around. In fact, the girl that took our ticket, she wasn't sure what that was about and was kind of curious herself. I think there was a little bit of concern. I hope everybody was okay. So we just gave up our tickets, and we're walking into the prison. And you can look around and see, this is the front of the prison. As you can tell, a lot of stuff is preserved the way it was. I don't think they've come in and reconstructed stuff. It's just very much, I'm going to guess, the way it was the day they left it. Yeah, look around. Check that out. I have toured a few other facilities like this over the years. I've been to Alcatraz, and that's a whole nother monster in itself. I've also been in Moundsville Prison in West Virginia, and that's a story for another day. I'd like to go back there again. Had a very weird, that's a weird place for sure. And I've also been to the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. I think that's still the name that they're using for it these days, but they all have, like this, a very, there's rust. There's paint peeling, there's broken windows. It has a very abandoned feel like this. Yeah, so you're coming in, and it's just very rough looking. They do have some interesting historic markers up and things like that, and they do give you a little brochure and map when you come in. Man, I mean, you really get a vibe of what this place was like.
I'm sure some of those.
And you kind of have a free reign to just kind of walk around all the buildings. There aren't staff hanging out telling you where you can and can't go. I mean, it's just a very, roam around, see what you think kind of place. There's several prison areas that you can walk through. Several kind of, I guess you would say, staff type buildings. And there's a little museum area. You see where they did their laundry. And by the way, somebody squeezed out of there during an escape. One of the signs noted. But yeah, look in there. I mean, they've still got things kind of You know, there's broken pieces of wall here and there. Oddly, it's in a very beautiful area, though. I mean, this if I was going to be in prison, this would be an okay place to be in some ways, visually.
So we don't have any air conditioning back in my day. Your family could afford to send you a 14-inch fan, you lay in your bed for like a ball of music. See, everything comes downhill. When it rains, see these drain lines here? These drain lines cannot handle the water. He would come and take them short.
Oh,
See that big strip by that garden tower? I've seen Mark come out of knee deep. When y'all come to the breezeway just now, see this window right here with the bars on it? That's called operation. That's where the guards stay. That's where they got some of the weapons and the radio and stuff. That's 5 guys on the yard crew will stand shoulder to shoulder and push them walking the breezeway and going on them. See where that door stand open there to your left? That was called C block back in my day. Used to be 3 sets of walks there, 2 men to cell, and house 40 of us. They turned that into proper control and they built high mats. See that new building on the hill up there? That wasn't here back in my day. I left that in 86, they built that in 89. That's what they call the tombs. This gray building over here, it wasn't here back in my day. When I left that in 86, they were just starting GD.
Oh, so that's like education.
Yeah, they built that at school and art room after I was gone. See, the place to be in the summertime was on the bottom wall. See, it was the coolest. Guys on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th floor would run their underwear trying to stay cool. In the winter of 85 in C block, my blanket covered the wall. That's how cold it was.
Oh, wow.
See, this is called our lower courtyard. See where the gym is? Used to be a chain link fence over there, that orange metal, that's called the slop house. That's where all the garbage comes out of the kitchen. Another chain link fence over the laundromat. We behave, we come in and play basketball, walk around. I can still see guys playing backgammon, playing chicken, playing cards within a walk. Listen how quiet. It ain't never this quiet. It ain't never this daggone quiet. These bushes didn't exist back in my day. They've been a prime place to hide a shank. We didn't have no shuffleboard either when I was here. Wasn't much whatsoever. See where that light is above that building right there? See that holler sort of rolls around to your left? There's 4 coal mines on this side here, and there's 3 coal mines over here. Back in the day, Brushy Mountain was done by the slave camp. They said it was the worst of the worst here. They've got a record of a 10-year-old boy coming here. There's no record of boy leaving. They got guys in here for just assassin their parents. It was nothing but a slave camp. State Tennessee meant for free labor. See where that sign is right there? When I come in here, that used to be, that's where the whipping post was. They put that in the 60s. There was still a sand pile there. They take that strap, stand on that strap, make that sand stick to it, so they whip to catch that much more. It's bad enough when I'm here in the 80s, but back during the coal mine days, it was really a rough place. Really a rough place. See, the prison built is an upside-down cross. That's to condemn us when we come in here, we wasn't worthy. Back during the coal mine days, when Brushy Mountain segregated, A block was all white, B block on the other side was all black. When I come in here in January of 84, we got blacks and whites on the same walk, even had black friends. They wouldn't let us sell together, called salt and pepper. Be sure and go to the museums. That was our law library back in my day. In there they got all kind of artifacts and stuff. They got a movie starts every hour and every half hour. It's in the church. That was our church back in the day. When you go in there, enjoy the AC, guys, because we didn't have no AC back in my day. None whatsoever.
And that is George, the old bomber. And does almost a little bit of a mic drop there at the end. He just kind of walks away. He gives a little speech about his time here at the prison, and then he just walked off. I love that guy. We'll hear a little more from him later, but he's kind of made a career here at the prison, talking about his days here, and just actually a very, very pleasant fellow. I had him autograph one of my books. He was just a cool guy, and enjoyed hearing his first-hand account of life at Brushy Mountain. That was quite a treat. And by the way, we're actually about to go into the cafeteria, and yeah, check out these cool paintings around here. That's good stuff. Oddly, when you go and see the movie that they play in the old chapel that George was just talking about, I think it was one of the guards describes just a brutal assault that occurred here. And I mean, it is dark, and it's kind of weird thinking about, as with any prison like this, bad things happened, but especially in this cafeteria. If you watch that movie first and you come here, you kind of know just how bad it got. In fact, let me read to you from a sign. It's dinner and a show. Beyond homegrown grub, the cafeteria served up plenty of murder and mayhem. There was the inmate who cut in line and soon felt the business end of a hammer hit his head. Another time, 2 kitchen inmates turned on a third as one used a meat cleaver to separate his spine while the other sliced off his arm with a long knife. Thereafter, prison officials mandated all kitchen utensils be identified and outlined on a pegboard so that each tool was accounted for in case a prisoner was tempted to go on a killing spree or made the deadly mistake of cutting in line again. And again, as you look around, man, it looks like business as usual was occurring in 2009, and then one day they just said, we're done. I mean, it definitely looks like a kitchen that had been used, and then you've just got dust over it and age and wear. And then you got these great paintings. Something beautiful and abandoned and weird and dark, about this little area in particular. And sadly, you see where some of those paintings are chipping away. It'd be nice if they could do something to try to preserve those before they're totally gone. I'm not sure what that would take, though. And I could definitely go through here and read all sorts of signs to you. And actually, I think most of them are almost predictable. By the way, there's a little area where guards could keep an eye on guys while they were eating, and even a little hole for them to put their guns through if needed, which is just a crazy thought. But I wanted to mention, they do give you a nice little brochure map when you come in, and it tells you a little bit about the prison, and I just thought I would read some of that because I like it so much. But they have a slogan on the front of the brochure, and it says, "Brushy was the damnation of many an evil man, and the salvation of a humble few." And then it also mentions beautiful land, hard times. For more than a century, Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary was the last stop for Tennessee's most wayward souls. A fortress of stone tucked in a stunning edge of the Appalachians, Brushy punished generations of Tennessee's hardest criminals and redeemed a humble few. We welcome you to tour this iconic Tennessee landmark. And it goes on a little more about it. It talks about the warden's table. Oh, and they also make their own vodka and moonshine. And then there's a map of the various sites here and there. I believe this is D block that we're at right now. There's a little notice about paranormal investigations. I'm sure they have those here all the time too. They do have concerts. In fact, in a little bit we'll look out back. You can see where they have a nice stage. And again, yeah, little rooms that have been untouched probably for decades. It's kind of a crazy thought there. And of course, if you come here or if you read about this prison, one name will come up all the time. Probably the most famous inmate that they had here, James Earl Ray, the convicted killer of Martin Luther King Jr. And there's their stage, by the way. And then right there towards the right in that back corner, I believe, is where James Earl Ray and some of his other inmate friends escaped. And they were out for, I believe, 54 hours. And that's an interesting story in its own right. But yeah, there's all sorts of mentions of James Earl Ray through the prison. I read an interesting book, Building Time at Brushy by Stony Ray Lane, who was the former warden, and he was the warden there, I believe, when that escape happened. And he's got some interesting perspectives. And there's the old gym, which is actually looks like it could still be very functional. But yeah, that's the gym.
Oh, you want to go on up there?
And we're actually heading over to the hole and the museum and some other sites here. There's a little laundry area. And I thought this was pretty cool. At one time, residents of the town could bring their laundry here. And I believe the prisoners, they had a little program where prisoners would do your laundry for free, which I thought was interesting. Of course, you heard George talk a little bit about the mining and things like that. Prisoners were obviously doing a lot of work here for sure. And here in a moment when we go through the museum, I took some photos of some of the things in the cases at the museum, and we'll do a little bit of a slideshow. But you'll see part of a ladder that was used by James Earl Ray. You'll see a couple of his paintings, and just some more information about Brushy's most famous inmate as we look around. I was reading on Wikipedia, though, there have been fictional inmates here, involved in the firm. Also in Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal Lecter almost gets sent here, but he ends up not coming here. And it also mentions that in John Hyatt's 1988 song, Tennessee Plates, there's a reference to the prison, which I just thought was interesting. But yeah, and here we are in the museum area, and you'll see some paintings done by inmates. You'll see some relics. There's some shanks that you'll see, but they've got them all done out in these kind of nice cases, and we'll look at those here in a moment. And of course, the movie is shown here at the museum too, to tell you a little bit more about the prison. Oh yeah, and we're going to go to the hole, and I'll read a couple of notes about the hole. And by the way, as you'll see, the hole still looks pretty rough, but let me read a little bit from a couple of the historic markers. It mentions the hole. When Brushy opened in 1896, the hole housed disobedient and dangerous inmates for days, weeks, even months at a time, if the warden deemed it right. The hole wasn't just a solitary confinement of 6 by 3 by 8 feet space. It was far worse. Inhabitants were once treated to suspension torture, tied by their thumbs to pulley cords hanging from the ceiling, toes barely touching for up to 30 minutes. This went on until 1905, when the practice was deemed inhumane by a state Senate commission panel. While the size of the hole increased to 4 by 8 by 10 feet, when the new prison opened in 1933, it was still a dreadfully dark dungeon containing just a mattress and 2 buckets, one for fresh water and the other for a toilet. Oh yeah, and I'll let George talk a little bit while we look at some of the artifacts in the museum.
I poured 2 gallons of gas on it for days, a gallon back in my day. The blast was so powerful, it blew 700 yards this way. Thank God, you know why? There's a 50 yards on the left was a condominium with people in it. I'd have been on death row. You know how stupid I was back in the day? I used to be a security guard there. I worked beside alcohol and tobacco firearm over the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. You can't wire up dynamite with love zone. I'm working 12-hour shift and I cut what I done. Remember the 4D battery I saw together? I said, that's what they hold together. George, how'd you bring the place down there? Well, I took it apart and put it back together. George, come and got the place on this other stuff. I was checking them out. They put me on the polygraph back home and come again at the courthouse. I failed the first one. The second one said, be still, George. I keep turning my head. I start reading headings off the books. I know it's going to be yes or no, it's going false. I said, I passed the second one. They know I know something. They want to interview my wife. And my wife was spending that her mom sat down over her phone. She doesn't know nothing. I got to be a man. You know, taking my family down, telling me when I've done it. See, my charge is felony for using dynamite. State Tennessee and Colonel County be yours to my family to send me here instead of sending me to federal prison like Atlanta, Georgia or somewhere like that. Guess who brought me here January 84? My dad. My dad was Lieutenant City Police Department of Constable of 5th District. I said, Father, I don't want you taking me. He said, boy, I want you riding back to the water car, man, in there, handcuffed chappies. I want you going like that. We come through them solid pool gates like that, but on the other side. Sam Howard was a correction officer back there. He looked at the book. My dad said, is this some kind of joke? George White Sr., George White Jr.? My dad said, no, this is no joke. He looked at my dad and said, how can you do this? My dad said, it's not easy. I shook my dad's hand for the last time for a while. I come in with a 10-year sentence. I got out in less than 3 on good behavior. You know, I went home on the back of my dad's Harley. I know I was a free man.
Oh, okay.
Free man. See, I kept a diary when I'm in here. I picked up you killed. I never dreamed in a million years. It's been 38 years ago when I come here. When I go on the street, my friend who's been in prison, I do talk about it. I brought my wife up here for the open up and show us things and heard me talk. She said, George, I have to be a tour guide, go up. I said, I don't know if I can do it or not. This is my therapy after all these years. God's got to have me here for a reason. If I can help that one individual, that's worth all the money in the world to me because people has no idea.
There you go.
And they see Brushy Mountain should be closed. It doesn't need to be a Hilton. It needs a place where they want to live in a place like this. In the winter of '85, my blanket folds the wall in C block. When I'm in here, we don't have any air conditioning. Your family had to send you a 14-inch fan if you could have one. You lay in your bed so I could borrow a mule.
Yeah.
Go wood.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Hey, no problem. Y'all have a good guys.
You too.
Yeah, and that was George telling his story. I'm so sorry, my video wasn't good there, my audio wasn't perfect, so I just did a little slideshow, like I said, of pictures of relics in the museum. But George talks about how, he actually was trying to blow up I guess a safe at a country club, and that's why it got him into Brushy for 3 years. And he was originally supposed to be there for 10, but good behavior. And I'm sure that's probably about all he's done in his life that was bad. But and then he also mentions that his dad brought him there and took him back home. And there's a nice vantage of the prison from a little hill that we climbed up, and you can see how pretty it is all around there. It's just such a pretty area. There's little dune buggy Jeep things. I think you can rent those and drive around. I might have to look into that later. They look like fun. But yeah, look how pretty that is. And how, it must have been torturous to be in there and look around, and be in a cell and look out and see all that green out there. But yeah, this is just a pretty area. I mean, that is, Eastern Tennessee is just about the prettiest place I can think of. And that's definitely the case here. I wanted to mention, too, we did go by Oak Ridge. This isn't that far from Oak Ridge, Tennessee. If you're into national parks, I know that there is the Manhattan Project, the nuclear kind of national park unit they have there. Well, if you're into visiting national parks, that might be one to make sure you hit the Great Smoky Mountains. That's a national park, but they don't have a whole lot going on with the Oak Ridge unit. There was a very nice ranger at a desk at a children's museum who told us about some of the things you could kind of go and see, but it was a little skimpy. She did give us a map, and she mentioned that there are some roadside markers, but they don't have a map of the roadside markers. It sounds like they might be working on some stuff, but anyway, we were hoping to combine a little bit of Oak Ridge with this trip, but we ended up only spending half an hour in Oak Ridge. I do know that there in Oak Ridge there's Cherokee Caverns. It's an old show cave, and they now do movies in a cave on certain holiday weekends and that kind of thing. And we did a couple years ago, we came down and we saw Hocus Pocus around Halloween in the cave, and that was really cool. So I do like this area a whole lot, especially with this prison here. And this is us leaving the prison, driving out, and again, just look how pretty everything is. I hope you enjoyed my little trip to Brushy Mountain there in Eastern Tennessee. It's a cool place, and if you're in this area, you have no excuse for not checking this out. This is really cool, especially if you're into old, kind of semi-abandoned prison facilities and that sort of thing. This is just really cool, and I look forward to my next visit.